So first I want to welcome everyone and thank you for taking time out of your night. For those of you who have not met, I'm Dr. Albanese. I appreciate you all being here. I have to say, just looking at the crowd, I'm going to be on Lee's team tonight. In case things get out of control, we're together, okay?
That's right.
Because I see the ratio's a little off tonight. Tonight's talk is on creating a healthy mindset. And when we think about creating a healthy mindset, right away we think about stress and anxiety, people that stress me out, jobs that stress me out. And certainly we're going to talk about stress in great length. We're going to talk about the different types of stresses, but we're also going to talk about how stress affects your health. Because most people think stress is a person, an assignment, something you have to do. But really, stress is not any of those things. It's how our body acclimates to whatever we're confronted with. So we're going to talk about that tonight in great lengths. Before we start, though, it's going to be real important to get a foundation, an understanding of what we're talking about. So we're going to define stress. We're also going to define health. I'm going to share with you 2 definitions of health and 2 definitions of stress. And that will give us a really good foundation upon which to have the rest of the conversation. So if you have any questions while we're going over those 2 points, let me know. Because if we don't have a real good understanding of that, then the rest of the talk will probably not be as impactful as it can. So the first definition of health that we're going to talk about is one from Dorland's Medical Dictionary. Optimal physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the lack of symptoms or disease. So let's break this down a little bit. When we look at this definition, health is optimal physical, mental, and social well-being, but not merely the lack of symptoms or disease. Meaning, health is not just how we feel. If we don't have symptoms, now it doesn't mean we're unhealthy, but it doesn't necessarily equate to health. It could take 6, 7, 8, 10 years to accumulate enough damaged cells and tissues in your heart for your heart to dysfunction or have a diagnosis of heart disease. But all the while, we're accumulating all those damaged cells and tissues. We're not in a healthy state. It's just that we don't know it yet. So health is how we function. Same thing with cancer, right? It takes years for cancer to develop. But until we're diagnosed or until we have outward signs or symptoms, we don't realize that we're not healthy. So health is about how we function. Now, when we look at the definition of stress in Dorland's Medical Dictionary, we'll compare that to health. A physical, chemical, or emotional factor that causes bodily or mental tension that may be a factor in disease formation. Now, what does that mean? Well, if there's some type of tension within our body that causes a deviation from that state of proper function, that's what stress is. So it could be a physical, chemical, or emotional factor. These are the different types of stress. Anything that alters our state of balance. Let's look at another definition now, and I love this definition. It's by Dr. Hans Selye. He was known as the father of stress, one of the first doctors to ever really investigate stress and how it affects your health. He was nominated for 17 Nobel Prizes, most out of anyone in history, for his work in physiology. He defines health as a successful adaptation to the ever-changing conditions, both inside and outside the body. Now, what does this mean? Well, our body should be constantly adapting, should be changing. In other words, if we're cold, we shiver. If we're hot, we sweat. If we get up and run, heart rate increases, blood pressure increases. We eat food, our body has to determine what do we need to do to break down this food, absorb it, digest it, eliminate it. Our body constantly is changing and adapting to whatever is happening on the outside or inside. Now, his definition of stress is one of bodily or mental tension resulting from factors that tend to alter an existing state of equilibrium. So anything that causes our body to move from a state of balance or equilibrium, health. These definitions are almost the opposite. So when we shiver because we're cold, eventually we should come out of that state because we warm up. If we're stuck in that state, Now, our body's not adapting, not getting back to a state of balance or equilibrium. We could get frostbite, right? If we're sweating to cool down and that process doesn't happen, we could get dehydrated or heat stroke because our body is not bringing itself back to a state of equilibrium. So if we're stuck in a state of stress, we're no longer in a state of health. We look at stress and we say, well, ask anybody, stress is bad, right? Stress is not good. When we understand what stress is and we understand how the body should be adapting to its environment, we understand that stress is necessary. When you look at how the body is designed, we are modern day hunter-gatherers. Our physiology has not changed since we were developed. Thousands of years ago, we basically walked around like every other animal. We hunted, we gathered, we ate, we reproduced. Other than that, wasn't much to do, right? We went to bed early, we woke up early, we ate the foods that flew over us, ran by us, swam by us, came out of a tree or out of the ground. That was basically life. So we don't have reactions within our body that are there to sabotage our own ability to be healthy. Everything that happens within our body is happening for a specific reason, for survival, to keep us alive. And that's what stress is. It's a reaction within the body to keep us alive, a survival mechanism. You come out of your cave and you see a lion or a tiger, right? That evokes a stress response. We're either going to fight or flight, right? We see the lion or the tiger, we have two choices: get away or be eaten. So right away our body is altering its state. It's no longer in a state of equilibrium, balance, or health, right? There's something that is causing tension within this situation and within our body. So what happens when we see that lion or tiger? Well, a couple things happen. Number one, we're going to be very emotional. We're not going to think logically. Well, you know, the lion can move at such and such a speed. It's about 12 feet away. So if I do the math, no, run, right? Very emotional. Now, when we do that, we need to invoke muscle contraction. Our muscles are going to be on high alert. So what is the way to stimulate muscles? We need energy. Well, what about sugar? We store that. We have it in our body. So let's let glucose out. So now we have an influx of glucose or sugar within the muscles. What do we do then? Insulin is going to chase the sugar to try and bring it back. These are appropriate in light of this stress response. Heart rate increases. Oxygenation increases because we need more blood. We need more oxygen throughout the body. We're not going to be digesting food. Digestion is a very taxing function. So we're going to suppress that. Slow down all of digestion functions except for acid production. We're going to increase it. Cholesterol is increased. We need that in a fight or flight response. We're not going to be having sex, so let's suppress sexual hormones, right? Reproductive system is slowed down. Now, I'm just showing you a couple of the responses in a fight or flight response. There are thousands of them. These are all necessary and appropriate given the tiger or the lion is staring at us. Now, once that tiger or lion is removed or that incident is changed, our body goes back to a state of proper adaptation, into a state of equilibrium, balance, health. But during that time, that fight or flight response is absolutely appropriate for survival. You know, if you watch a gazelle walking along the plains of Africa and it's chased by a lion, it's in a fight or flight response. But once that threat is removed, the gazelle no longer evokes that stress response. And it goes back to a state of balance, just doing gazelle things, right? It goes back to a state of equilibrium. We are animals. We are wild animals. Believe it or not. We are wild animals, but we're living in captivity. So the way we respond to our environment is the same as every other animal. The difference is when we talk about stress and a fight or flight response, we're the only animal that can reproduce that stress response even when there's not a threat. We can think about things that happened in the past and relive that stress response. We can evoke the same exact reactions in the body as if there was a tiger or lion standing in our face. Now, I know I'm not doing this for you, but the people you're going to share this with, right? So when you have conversations with yourself about things that happened in the past, your body gets tight. You get angry. You relive that. We can make it worse than it was. We're in the same exact state as if it was happening here and now. We can think about things that aren't even happening yet, that may not happen yet in the future, and project that same stress response to those things as well. Things that may never happen, but we get ourselves in a total fight or flight stress response. Things that happen now. You have a conversation with a loved one, maybe the one that sleeps next to you, right? On the phone before you leave for work. By the time you get home from work, you're ready for battle. I am ready. I've been thinking about this. And you walk in and the other person doesn't even remember having the conversation. But you're ready to go. You have engaged yourself in a fight or flight response. Stress response. Make a mountain out of a molehill, right? We say? Mm-hmm. We're the only animals that can do that. We're the only animals that can relive events and bring about stress. Or live events that haven't even happened yet that bring about stress. So when we look at stress and we say stress is good, stress is bad, stress is necessary. But we shouldn't be living a lifestyle of chronic stress. We work for 10, 20, 30, 40 years in a stressful environment. Our body stays in that stress response. A low-level, chronic state of stress. We hear inflammation, right? Well, when you're in a stress response, inflammation goes up. We live in that stress response. Inflammation is the underlying condition within every one of the top 10 causes of death. Every metabolic condition has stress and inflammation. We have stressful relationships. We think about money, we think about our kids, we think about this and that, and things in the past, things in the future, things that, right? We weren't designed to live in that chronic stress response. Stress should be an event that comes and goes. We're the only animal, though, that lives with chronic stress, and we wonder why we're the sickest animal in the world, on the planet. Sickest species on the planet. I see the kids now. My kids, well, I only have one left in high school. You know, now they have to go through these metal detectors at school. As soon as they enter school, they're thinking, okay, what are they checking for? What are they going to find? Who's going to do something? Like, welcome to school. Let's have fun today. Let's learn a lot. I used to tell my kids, I used to leave them at the drop-off. You know, have fun, learn a lot, make good choices. I love you. I used to say it every day. They were so happy one day because the principal overheard me saying this time and time, and I used to do the happy dance. I won't do that because it might cause you stress. But the principal said it on the loudspeaker one day. Have fun, learn a lot, make good choices. Right? This is welcome to school. Let's go through the metal detector. Let's pat you down. Talk about stress. Right? So stress evokes certain emotions or certain reactions. Let's look at those, and I want to put it in context as far as how stress affects your health. Part of your brain called the amygdala. Bob, it's a center of the brain with emotions and things of that nature. So when we're in a stress response, we have an increase in emotional learning, emotional memories. In other words, you see a burner on the top of a stove that's red and a baby walking by the stove. You're not going to think, well, how hot is that burner? How long is that child's arm? Can it get to the burner? No, it's grab and go, right? You're emotional. You don't think of factual learning. You're not going to create a spreadsheet and go through all the scenarios. It's very emotional. Focus and attention are decreased. You ever watch a deer and you make a sound, right? They're focused on something, then all of a sudden they're distracted very quickly, fight or flight. Noradrenaline increases, serotonin decreases. Logical memory, short-term memory, and concentration decreases. Emotional learning, ability to be distracted is increased. It's 7:55. I have 10 minutes to get to my 8 o'clock meeting. Where are my keys? Who saw my keys? Did anyone see my keys? I put my keys right down here. Where are my keys? And then the voice comes from the other side of the house. Look in the bowl. The key bowl. Oh, okay, here they are. Okay, wait, is the meeting on Broad Street? Is it on Main Street? Which way am I going? Oh, right? Scatterbrain, we say. Now, I know this isn't you, but people you know, right? We don't think logically. We're all over the place. It's very emotional. Now, how does this affect your health? When this is one instance, for a very finite period of time, our body gets back to a state of equilibrium and balance. But now, we live like this for 10, 20, 30 years. What happens? Now we're diagnosed with things like what? ADD, ADHD, anxiety, chronic stress. If it gets bad enough, long enough, maybe depression, take a pill. Cortisol increases. We need energy for stress. Blood glucose, sugar increases, insulin increases. We stay in a stress response for 10, 20, 30 years. What happens? We have diabetes. Take a pill. Blood pressure, appropriate in a stress response to increase. Heart rate increases. But now if we stay in that stress response for 20, 30 years, now we have what? High blood pressure. Take a pill. LDL levels increase, HDL receptors decrease. Now our cholesterol is out of balance. We have high cholesterol. What do? Take a pill. Acid production increases. Now we have reflux. Left uncorrected, maybe we have an ulcer. Now we take a surgery or take a pill. Calcium is excreted during stress. Now, women have more stress than men. Sorry. That's the stats, right? You live with men. Yeah, I'm with you, Lee. Don't worry if it goes bad. I'm here. Calcium is excreted. Now, where do we get calcium from? Where are like big calcium reserves in the body? Bones. So now, 10, 20, 30 years of taking calcium out of the bones, what do we have? Osteoporosis. Why do more women have osteoporosis than men?
More stress.
More stress. Take a pill. GI function, slow down. It's very energy consuming function. So during a stress response, it's suppressed. So motility, the movement of food, slow down. Now we live like that for 10, 20, 30 years. Heartburn, indigestion, IBS, constipation. Take a pill. Sexual function, suppressed. Now hormones are out of balance. Take something. When our body is under a stress response, acidity increases, alkalinity decreases. Our body chemistry is in flux. Immune responses and immune function is downregulated. Our immune system is suppressed. Why is it people get stressed during the holidays? Or not get stressed, get sick during the holidays? Because we're stressed. My in-laws are coming, the family's coming, I don't know, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna get? The kids won't give me their list, I don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, I went to the store, it's crowded, and we get sick. People don't get sick in August when they're on vacation. They get sick during the holidays. Our diet's off, eating sugary candies, having a couple cocktails, staying up late, and the in-laws are coming. We don't take a pill, we move. Peristalsis, again, GI function is slowed down. Sleep. I can't get to sleep. My mind is constantly going. I don't stay asleep. I get up in the middle of the night. My thoughts are all over the place. I wake up and take a pill. The reason why I say that is because, see, we start treating conditions or symptoms of stress when they're not the problem at all. They are the symptom of being in chronic low-level stress over decades. Now, stress doesn't necessarily mean just emotional stress. Stress can be a physical, chemical, or emotional stress. You're in chronic pain over years and years and years. Muscles get tight, right? Your body gets all tight. You're in a stress response. That's why when you're in chronic pain, digestion is off, constipation, heart rate is elevated. It's not because of the pain, it's because your whole physiology changes because you're in a fight or flight response. One of the reasons why your adjustments are so important, because if you're in chronic pain, we interrupt that cycle, we interrupt that pattern. Bring your body back to a state of proper adaptation, to a state of equilibrium, back to a state of health. Chemical stress. Chemical stress can be from the foods we eat. We're hunter-gatherers, right? The food that we pick off the ground, out of a tree, flew, ran, swam by us. That's what we're designed to eat. You eat an apple, your body doesn't have to figure out what to do with this apple. You eat it, you absorb it, break it down, digest it, eliminate the rest. Easy process. But now we eat food that's a chemical experiment. The body doesn't know what to do with additives, coloring agents, preservatives. I mean, we have food that has the products that are in Roundup, glyphosate. The body's not meant to eat that. Chemical stress. The foods we eat, the products we put on our body, right? What we drink, what we smoke, all these things put stress on our body. When our body has chemical stress, the products themselves cause stress to the body and evoke the same fight or flight response. Physical stress does the same thing. Emotional stress. Again, emotional stress causes that fight or flight response. Look at the world we've lived in the last 3 years. Right? I'm going to say some things that may push some buttons. That's not my intent. But what I'm trying to do is show you how stress is evoked. Health experts told us, don't wear masks. Don't wear a mask. Then all of a sudden, wear a mask. Right? Wear a mask to protect you and others from you. Then we find out after, they said we shouldn't have worn the mask because the virus is smaller than the mask's ability to filter it. And now you're rebreathing your carbon dioxide, hypercapnia. We're not getting enough oxygen, hypoxia. Kids, adults, right? The stress of non-identifying people. Kids went to school for 2 years, they didn't even see their friends' faces. I still have people, I have no idea what they look like. That causes stress. What do? They're telling me one thing and then another thing. Now we find out it's another thing. Quarantine. How many people were depressed, anxious, suicides, alcoholism, drug abuse, right? Then we find out the countries that didn't quarantine had the lowest rates of COVID. What do? It causes a state of confusion, a state of chaos. We've lived for 3 years in that state. 3 years we've lived in that fight or flight state. That produces stress, chronic inflammation and stress. How do we respond to that? How do we deal with that? Right? It's confusing. We're the only animal in the animal species that can produce stress. Right? A wild gazelle doesn't eat food with coloring agents and additives, but we do. We produce stress within our body, the way we live our lifestyle. And it's very important to understand that stress is good. It's a survival mechanism. It's designed to keep us alive. Right? It's not designed to hurt us, and it's not designed to last for years and years and years. Our thoughts, we have 60,000 thoughts a day. 40% of the things that happened 40% of the things we think about never happened. 30% happened in the past. They can't be changed. 12% are illogical. 10% are so petty and miscellaneous. Of all the things that we focus on, there's only 8% they say are legitimate concerns. 2% will happen. 6% we can positively change. Do you focus on the 8% or the 92%? The conversations you have with yourself, if you had them with a friend, would they want to talk to you? Probably not. How many conversations do you have with yourself when you're in the car that never resolve or get to a solution? They just get you more stressed out. 60,000 thoughts a day. The problem is, we have the same thoughts today that we had yesterday and the day before, and then we wonder why we're in the same state. And we don't resolve the problem. 60,000. All we need to do is create space between those thoughts. Create silence between those thoughts. Have you ever entered a room? I'll challenge y'all. Enter a room, turn out the lights, do not take your phone, and sit there for 5 minutes. And don't think of anything. Just be silent. It's amazing how fast your mind is interrupted by thoughts. 60,000 thoughts a day that interrupt our ability to just be quiet. Causes of stress: financial issues, relationship, work, parenting issues, daily life and health. People stress about being healthy or being sick and cause more stress. Right? Health is the number one concern. Finances, relationships, our family. See, when we live in this state, we don't know anything else. This just becomes how we live. And then we wonder why our body starts to deteriorate. You're only moving in one of two directions. You're moving towards vitality, health, life, right? That's where we should always be. Or you're moving towards sickness, ill health, and early death. I want to show you how stress impacts your life, your health. This picture represents DNA, our DNA. Your original DNA is like a blueprint. It's a playbook for who you have the ability to be. It's vibrant, it's colorful, it's clear, right? So you're going to read that DNA, that playbook, and say, all right, this is how everything should be functioning. Cool, I can read it, I'll carry out those plays. But eventually, all cells in our body die and have to be replaced. So what we do is we make a copy of that DNA. When we make a copy of it, it's never going to be as clear. But you can still read the playbook pretty well. But eventually we have to make a copy of that copy. And then we make a copy of that copy. And eventually, we can't read the playbook. We die. That's how our body dies. Now, what accelerates this process? When you have to make a lot of copies. If you didn't make a lot of copies, you would have more of the original blueprint, the playbook. Now, what causes us to make more copies? The physical, chemical, and emotional stress that's placed on the body. Our body's inability to adapt and get back to a state of equilibrium. Give you an example. If you ever look at, they always say the presidents. Look at the president when they get in office and when they leave office. They don't look so good, right? I always give this example, not trying to be discriminatory, but rock stars, right? Look at a rock star when they start and maybe 20 years into it. Not so good looking anymore, right? Their face looks older. Well, I can't say that about the hair, but but their face looks old. They don't look so good because of all the stress placed on their body. A lot of that is lifestyle, not for all of them, right? But they're on the road all the time. The demands on them are incredible. Some of them have vices that they can't control. But what makes us make more copies is the stress that's placed on the body. Now, do you place that stress on yourself? Where does it come from? Limiting beliefs? What we're told when we're young kids? Don't be someone you're not. Don't be too big for your britches. Don't bite off more than you can chew. A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. A woman's place is in the house. Lee, this is where we'll stick together. Men don't cry. Money's the root of all evil. Rich people are thieves. I remember when my son was really young, he said to me, my oldest son, he said to me, Dad, what is stress? I hear people talk about stress. What is that? I said, buddy, hopefully you'll never have to know. Right? But early on, we put these limiting beliefs into our children's minds. Watch a child try to walk across the room with a glass of water. Don't spill it. Well, that's really positive. That's a good affirmation. Okay. Right? Be careful where you walk. Why? Because it's dangerous. Well, why don't you just say walk swiftly and gracefully? Okay, I can do that. What are they thinking of? Swiftly and gracefully. Don't spill it. They're thinking about spilling it. Think of how we talk. When we answer the phone here, hello, Albanese Chiropractic, Dr. Albanese, I can help you. I can help you. I might not be the one. I might have to talk to Brandy, but someone can help you here. You will never schedule an appointment and have anyone ever say, I have you down at 3. We got you down at 4. We are very specific in the way we communicate. Nobody wants to be down. Nobody wants to be put down. I have you scheduled at 4. We'll see you at 3. That's how we communicate. The words we use can be empowering or disempowering. And it's also how we interpret it. I love you. I love you? You better get that one right. Right? It's how we interpret our world. Limiting beliefs are things that we just adopt as our own. We don't own them as children. Children only know to be happy. They don't know anything about anything. You look different. Yeah, you look different. Okay, cool. You want to play? Yeah. That's it. That's as simple as it is for a kid. It's not until we get older that we start accepting limitations that are not our own, that are derived from what other people say, our parents, our teachers, our preachers. Now, more than ever, what you wear, what you buy, swipe the next picture, where you live, the clothes you wear, how you talk, the music you listen to. I mean, kids have more stress. They think that this is reality. It's not even for reality for most of the people that are posting these things. Man, we never go out to eat. These people are always going out to eat. Look what they're eating tonight. More people take pictures of food. I don't even know why they take pictures of food. Right? But then we think they're living this glorious life. Well, it's not reality. Right? When my grandmother's generation, women were teachers, nurses, secretaries, or homemakers. Until someone decided, no, that's your belief, that's not my paradigm. I'm living through a different set of eyes. Now we have women that are CEOs, Supreme Court justices, but it's until somebody says something different, we accept it. The earth is flat. Until somebody questioned it and said the earth is not flat, it's round. You will not fall off at the end. You'll end up on the other side. Until that was proven, everyone thought the world was flat. A limiting belief. Rosa Parks, until she decided, no, I deserve this seat as much as you, I'm not moving. That was a belief that changed the course of history. But until that time, it was a limiting belief. Roger Bannister, he's the first person to run a sub 4-minute mile, less than 4 minutes in a mile. I think it was 3 minutes, 59 seconds, and 14 tenths. But until he ran less than a 4-minute mile, it was never conceivable that anyone would do that. And after he did it, the first year there were dozens of runners that did. They all had the ability the year before, but it was a limiting belief that they accepted, that it was impossible. The Wright brothers, they said we can fly. Until they had to change their paradigm and their belief system, we weren't flying anywhere. Right? But they didn't believe it. John F. Kennedy, landing on the moon. I'll paraphrase him, I won't quote it because I'll get it wrong. But he said in the next decade we will land a man on the moon and we will do other things. It will not be easy, it will be difficult. Change is not easy. It can be difficult. But if one person can do it, other people can do it. Sister Madonna Butter, the Iron Nun. Most people have never heard of her. I never heard of her until I started racing in triathlons. She's a Catholic nun, 48 years old. She's having a conversation with the parish priest. She's a little perturbed because she always sees him running. But he's always out running. She goes, why are you running? Why are you wasting your time running? You should be ministering to our parishioners. You should be studying the Bible. He said, when I run, I'm closer to God. God speaks to me when I run. There's silence, and I hear more of God's word. Never an athlete before, she said, if that brings you closer to God and a better priest, I'll start running. So at 48, she started running. At 52, she did her first triathlon. At 54, she did her first Ironman triathlon. The left picture is her in 2014 at 82, the oldest woman to compete in an Ironman triathlon. The picture on the right, she's 92, that's 2021.
Oh my goodness.
92 years old. She has competed from the age of 52 to now in over 400 triathlons, over 45 Ironman triathlons, including the World Triathlon Finals in Kona, Hawaii.
Yeah.
The most rigorous place to do a triathlon because the roads are built on lava fields. The heat is unbelievable. She's had accidents, she's had falls. Oh, by the way, unless you know what a full Ironman triathlon is, it's swimming in open water 2.5 miles. Get off your bike, get out of the water, get on your bike and ride 112 miles. Get off your bike and then run a marathon, 26.2 miles. What is your excuse? Do you have a good excuse? I want to start walking. I want to start exercising. I want to change my diet. I want to be more punctual. I can never get that project done. I bet she has a lot of excuses why she doesn't want to get up in the morning, run, bike, or swim. And I'm sure a lot of people told her, at your age, you know, you're a nun. On top of that, limiting beliefs. What are the limiting beliefs that you place on yourself or others have told you should be yours? Because I bet you she had a lot. 400 triathlons, 45 Ironmans. 92 years old. Anybody here want to be 92 and look like that? Heck yeah. She's moving towards health, vitality. She's not moving towards death, disease, and early death. Right? She's got a plan for her life that involves living. But in order to do that, she had to create a paradigm in her mind that she was going to live through, not what somebody else created. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. You can get her book on Amazon for, I think it's $10. It's worth the reading. Because after that,
What's the name of her book?
If you just go on Amazon and put her name in, you'll get it. But if somebody would have told her, that's not appropriate, don't do it, and she didn't have the inside belief system that she did, she wouldn't have done any of that. And she has probably touched more people doing these triathlon races than she would have in her parish. She's in the triathlon, what do you call it when people are in the
Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame? Yes, thank you.
Isn't she also in the Guinness Book of World Records?
82 years old, oldest woman to compete in the triathlon, a long distance race, yes. But that wasn't her intent. Her intent was just to get closer to God. And that's the way she did it. It's amazing. The stories of people that I would see at these races, unbelievable. I'm going to share one story with you because she's not here, because I know she would give me the evil eye. My wife in her 40s, she had 2 knee replacements. And she wanted to compete in a bodybuilding contest. They have like different categories. The muscles, the bikini, and then the one in between is called physique. She said, I want to do that. I want to see. She didn't care about the contest. She just wanted to see if she can dedicate a year of her life counting every calorie, weighing every piece of food, working out, just to see if she can do it. That was how she was healing from her knee replacements. So at 55 years old, 56 years old, she competed and she got her professional card against 20-year-olds. She came in number 1. Right? If she would have accepted the limitations that her doctor placed on her, that, well, you may never run again. You may never, she never worked out before then. You can't do those things. Right? She said, I think I have a different thought process, and she did it. She was asked to be on a bodybuilding team, a vegan bodybuilding team that competes in a world competition. She had an injury, so she's got to put it off a year. Sponsorship and the whole deal. Pretty cool. Yeah. But again, what are your limitations? What are your excuses? Yeah, some days it rains, some days it's cold, some days it's too hot. But those are just excuses. So how do we change that? How do we change our belief system? How do we change the paradigm that we live in? First, you have to create your future self. You have to determine who you are and who you want to be. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a son, a brother, I'm a friend, I'm a teacher, caregiver. That's who those labels, but who am I really? What am I? I define that, I write that down. And it makes my life easier because I just default to that. Okay, this is what I do. How does my future self eat? How does my future self exercise? What time does my future self wake up, go to bed? How does he act? How does he interact with people? Right? Create your future self. This is why this is important. Because everybody wants to change something. But that change oftentimes doesn't come about because we think of the same thoughts we had yesterday and the day before, and we're not going to get to a future self. We're going to stay the self we are. That's why New Year's resolutions don't work. Yeah, I want to change. I want to be more punctual. I want to do this. I want to do that. But we don't change anything to get us there. Your future self. What would your future self do in this situation? How would your future self interact? Would your future self get up and run? I guess I better get up, because I'm never going to be my future self if I do the things I'm doing now that created this. Be aware of your conscious and unconscious thoughts. About 5% of our program is in our brain, in our mind. 95% of how we're programmed is in our body. Affirmations are great. The reason why they don't work is because you can tell yourself something, but until you be it here, you won't become it. I am healthy. I am energetic. I am strong. I am sexy. Okay, I said my affirmations. No, you gotta live it. You gotta breathe it. What I mean by in your body, have you ever tried to figure out a combination or remember a password or a phone number before we had phones like this, right? Can't remember it. What is it? And you just start dialing or you just start punching in numbers and it comes to you. It just happens. That's stored in your body. That's why you got to walk, talk, act as if. Because if you just say it, it's not enough. You have to get it in every fiber of your body. It has to emanate from your body. That's how change happens. Then you have to be conscious of your conscious and unconscious thoughts. The 98%, right? Or the 92% of the conversations you have. And when you find yourself going back to those conversations, interrupt it. Delete. Let me talk about my future self. Let me focus on where I want to be, what I want to do, be, have, Could be a new car. It could be being punctual. Could be a better diet. Could be I want to meet that person. You do that long enough. Have you ever thought about somebody that you haven't seen in a long time? You think about them and you're thinking about them, and all of a sudden they call or they show up. Do you think that's random? That's the universe. We resonate on a certain vibration. Sickness, depression, stress is a very low vibration. Happiness, joy, excitement, love, high vibration. You resonate at that high vibration, it travels. You ever drive down the road when you're late? You ever notice how many red lights are on that road? Right? You ever drive down the road on a Sunday and you're just meandering around? There are never red lights. It's all green. Right? It's your energy. You put that out there. We're going to talk more about that next time. But you have to be aware of your thoughts and live in the present, just now. Right? Focus on being who you want to be and be that person now. Interrupt those thought processes, those 60,000 thoughts. Just add space between them. Take moments of time to just be silent. They say your thoughts are like bars on a cage, right? And if you open or create space between the bars, that's when you have to be afraid of the lion. So create space between your thoughts. Now I can roar. I can get out and be free. I'm not caged in anymore. So be aware of your thoughts. Because as soon as you get in the car, you're going to start talking to yourself. So it might as well be something that you want to produce or you want to have happen. Instead of the same conversations you have, and you wonder why you only drive alone, right? Nobody wants to be in the car with you. But think about those conversations as ways to reprogram your mind. We have something called neuroplasticity. Our brain is able to be molded. It's able to be changed. But you have to change your thought process. When you drive somewhere, I drive to work, right? I take the same road. I'm not even conscious of the things around me, the houses I pass, the stores I pass. I'm not even conscious of it because it's the same repetitive process. I take a different road. I'm like, wow, look at that. That's a nice house. Oh, I never saw that store. Oh, I remember hearing about that. You see things differently. Do things that are uncomfortable for you. Do things differently. If you always turn right, turn left. Take a different path. Because what's common you become complacent with that. Try something new. Because when you do that, you stimulate your brain. Set time aside to visualize and live in your future. Visualize, what would that be like? How would that look? What would my life be like? How would my kids, my family, what is it all going to look like if I start living to my potential? Because when you dream like that, you dream big. But then what happens? Well, I got to be real. That's not realistic. I don't know if I can really do that. So we go back to what's comfortable. The negative thoughts. Why? Because you can't let yourself down if you don't try. Because it's safe where you are. Well, it's not that bad. Take time to visualize and live in that moment. But really feel it in your body. When you get to that point when you can do that, it's really cool. I take a nap every day, and that's how I start my nap. I just start visualizing. What is my afternoon going to look like? You know, what is the day going to look like? What is my life going to look like? And don't let other people dictate your life. I remember when my oldest son was a senior and he was applying to colleges, he had a guidance counselor who said, and my son is, he's an outdoor guy. He's not a work in a cubicle kind of guy, right? He did well in school, but he didn't get straight A's. So when he told his counselor he wanted to go to Virginia Tech, she said, you know, I think that's a long shot. I think what you need to do is get a little bit more realistic with your expectations and maybe try community college, and there's nothing wrong with that, and maybe transfer in as a sophomore or junior. He came home and he was mad. And I'm lucky he came home and told me this at night, because I would have been in that school. Oh, you couldn't believe. I have a mantra that I use when I talk, especially to my kids, but with anyone, but especially my kids. I listen, I reflect, and then I respond. I wasn't ready to go through that process when he told me this. I was going right to boiling point. So we talked about it. So he applied to one school, Virginia Tech. I'm going to get choked up. One school. He went into the Ag Tech program. He got accepted. He's now in the business program. He finished, that's a 2-year program, and now he's in the business program. He's got a 3.1 average. I called his counselor, I didn't call, I emailed her and said, hey, I just want to give you an update on Michael. He chose not to go to community college. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But that's not what he wanted. He chose not to go that path. He's at Virginia Tech now. He's finishing up his sophomore year as a 3.0 student. Shame on her. Shame on anyone that puts limitations on your life, especially the kids. And I can tell you stories about my kids and what their goals were and things like that, but we all have those stories. We all do. What are the limitations that we put on them without even realizing it? Just how we were. Uncle Joe's on the phone, tell him I'm not here. In other words, lie to Uncle Joe and tell him I'm not here. Right? That is teaching your child it's okay in certain circumstances to not tell the truth. Right? You got to be congruent. You are the reason why I do a lot of things I do. I don't necessarily want to get up at 5 o'clock and go for a run or go work out. My wife asked me the other day, do you like what we're having for dinner? I said, no, not really. But I know it's good, I'm going to eat it. You know. But I do those things because if I am here teaching you about health and I wasn't doing the things, I would be hypocritical. I would be a hypocrite. I have to be consistent and congruent with my message. I don't like to do all the things I do. I don't necessarily want to get up at 5 and in the rain and run. But you know what? At 92 years old, she is. I'm looking pretty sad if I don't. And I just say, well, it's a little cold. A little chilly out today. Maybe Sister Madonna's taking off. Let me FaceTime, see. So how you talk to yourself, but especially the kids. Especially these kids, especially today. Because all they have to do is go on, I don't even know the thing, Snapchats and Twitter, and whatever it is. And there's no shortage of how they should live their life according to everyone else that is not in their life. I'm going to read something. Normally I don't like to read too many things, but I'm going to read something that I think is appropriate. These are just aesthetic. I don't need them. This is by a geneticist. She said, we are not living up to 1/10 of a millionth of what we could be. Conservative estimates are that each human being could easily live past 200 years old without experiencing disease or breakdown in vital organs, senses, or intellect. But due to 10,000 years of stress damage to the body's energy system, our genes are now poorly manufactured. And the way we live, we make more copies and copies. They are created with deformities that speed up the process of disease, pain, and aging. In order to improve the quality of life, scientists have determined that we have to improve the quality of the expression of genes. Genes don't dictate who you are. It's the expression of a gene. What affects the expression of a gene? The environment. The environment determines how that gene is turned on, turned off, or expressed. The environment does. You take two twins that are separated at birth, genetically identical. One lives with a family that's very unhealthy, one lives with a family that's very healthy. Two twins that are genetically the same. They have the same potential. The one that lives with the healthy family is healthy. The one that lives with the unhealthy family will have the same conditions and diseases that the family has, because the genes are expressed in a different way. In order to improve the quality of genes, the electrical stimulus that produces the genes must be as close to perfect as possible. Electrical stimulus is your nervous system. Another reason why your adjustments are so important. Facilitate proper expression of life. Gene Houston, a psychologist, says at birth, each child has over 1 million options. By adulthood, the person's options have diminished drastically. It's as if we had over 1 million buttons to push and we never pushed more than 3 or 4. The deterioration of the body that typically occurs before individuals reach adulthood leads to the deterioration across the entire spectrum of the brain-body system. We become progressively less able to learn, perceive, conceptualize, relate, and create. It's a path of physical erosion and a real loss in human intelligence. How many buttons do you push? How are your genes being expressed? What are you giving them the opportunity to do? Who do you have the potential to be? Live up to your potential. It doesn't matter how many numbers behind your age it is. 92 years old, triathlons. Doesn't matter. I appreciate you all being here. And I hope that you take this information and take action, because information without action will lead you to where you are now. You make one small change, another change, it's exponentially huge in terms of how that impacts your life. We're going to build on this at the next workshop, but I hope that you find this helpful and tell others. We'd love to see more people. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.